So I think that segues nicely, and I want to be respectful of your time here because I know you got to go pick up your daughter here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're really good on time.
We
Like
are
I
okay.
have 45 minutes before like I have to freak out.
Perfect. Cool. Well, okay, if that's the case, let's share your testimony with us, and let's talk about your faith a little bit. I I think it's so cool that you're so open about that, and
Yeah.
the I know we were talking earlier about you doing that and how that went,
Yeah,
but
I would love to share with your audience too why I'm like laughing at that because I
yeah,
was just on a call a matter of like this is probably 36 hours ago. This is very fresh, very new. Someone asked me to be a guest on their thing where I could speak to their people and I was given no direction other than like just feel free to share your story. Cool. Got it. Love it. Like I'm not gonna do it unless I'm usually asked. But I feel like it's an exciting story that could potentially enrich someone's life or inspire them because it has a lot of ups and downs and miraculous things about it. And I was persecuted for it, straight up, like straight up persecuted for just sharing my life story by request. And just yeah, so just kind of little sensitive there, I guess.
fair enough.
um to share that. So I guess what I've learned from this, and I honestly do, I want to learn from that experience, and I want to be able to be more respectful of people's sensitivities. um and I learned that you should give a trigger warning to uh, if you got some hot shit coming,
Yeah,
like you gotta let people know there's something coming. So
yeah.
buckle your freaking seatbelts.
Trigger warning
Um,
right here,
th-
right now.
yeah, it's happening right here, right now. I'm gonna say some wild stuff. Um,
Love
so cool story. It's it's probably what you wouldn't expect if you tried to make any assumptions about me, which is fair. I mean, we all kind of do that with anyone. You try to just like discern, right, and come up with ideas as to who people are, so that you can kind of maybe even protect yourself or see if you want to lean in a little bit further.
yeah.
So it's totally, there's nothing wrong with making some loose judgments on people.
Mhm.
So born and raised Quincy, yada yada, all that. High school, miserably bullied. I'm talking ass kicked, book slapped out of my hands, pissed on, spit on, um, just nonstop. It was brutality nonstop for a good year. It trickled into a year two a little bit.
Big kid then,
Once I,
or were
what's
you
that?
a lot smaller, or were you pretty good size then? Because you're a
Yeah,
big guy.
things changed a little bit. Once I got mad enough and big enough,
Yeah.
um, yeah, the bullying stopped really quick. But I started off as like maybe 130 pounds as a freshman. I graduated at 250 pounds. I
Wow.
was bench pressing 500 pounds as a 16-year-old. And I was mad. I was mad because of the way people treated me, and it was horrible. And that fueled a lot of the what took me from 135 to 250. What fueled a 500-pound bench as 16 years old. Um, I wanted to hurt people, honestly. Like I wanted even worse than that. Like I wanted these people to suffer, and I wanted to be the person doing it.
Yeah.
So I became an absolute just animal of a person on the football field. I was pretty reserved and sweet and kind off of it, but on the field, like that was where I was going to get my revenge. And even if it was had there was people that had nothing to do with the harm that was caused to me. It was just my place to let it loose. Um, so I was specifically out there not to play the game of football, but I was out there to hurt people. I'm not proud of that. And it's just the way that I played football for the rest of my career, which took me into my college days. It was also the demise of my career as well. It's not a great way to play football. There is a it's there's an intelligence to football that's required if you want to excel at it. You can't just be a big meathead and just want to go out there and hurt people and expect to really excel at it. You can make people like afraid of you, but like when it comes to the end result and the score on the board, just it doesn't really do much for you. So it kind of took me a while to just let go of that and forgive those people, which I was able to do before even coming to know Jesus. Um, I was able to forgive those people, and forget is different. You know, those memories will kind of haunt you
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. Um, and I've prayed on that too. Like if like it'd be nice if those memories could go on, um, because I do still have times when I get triggered. Um, and it will take me back to that moment, and I get a little paralyzed and I get a little like stunned, and it catches me off guard. But I've gotten better and better and better at like seeing that coming and being able to um gracefully navigate that without curling up into a ball or wanting to lash out. But yeah, so I was able to let all that stuff go. College is over, football is over. Um, I Now this is getting into like my testimony, if you will, and how I came to know um, Jesus, I guess. Um, so after college, just kind of, figuring life out. I was a football player my entire life, so a little identity shifting happening. Nothing bad. I wasn't going through like a crisis, but I was excited and and eager to kind of figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And I'd always enjoyed fitness, even though it came, from a place of anger initially that I was doing a lot of my training. I loved it still, and I knew that, and I had the help of a this mentor of mine. He was actually my manager at my first job when I was like working sales, and I only did it for like 3 months, and I couldn't stand it, and he knew that too, and he pulled me into his office and was like, "Yo, let's get you out of here, buddy. Let's figure out something for you to do." And he was able to kind of pull a lot of it out of me, and because I didn't know. I didn't even know what I liked. I'd never even That question had never even crossed my mind. Like, what do I want to do? I hadn't even really thought of that.
Yeah.
And so he was one of the first people that ever even proposed that to me, and kind of uh, pulled it out of me a little bit, and came to the place where it was like, should probably open a gym, go train people. You love that. you like helping people, you like working with people to help them make like feel better or perform at a higher level. You're passionate about it, you're knowledgeable about it. Let's go do that. And he helped me put together a business plan. So I'm opening a gym. I'm moving on from like your typical 9 to 5 job, sales work, to coaching full time and training still because I love it. I at this time I didn't even really I knew about CrossFit. My cousin had been telling me about it. She kept like assuring me, she's like, dude, you would crush it, just do it. And I'm like, Taylor, I know what I'm doing when it comes to training, and like I'm pretty fit and strong already. Like I don't need to switch things up. Um, like I'm good. And but I like was in the process of kind of trying to fill a void competitively. I had tried like a physique show, um, and it also gave me an opportunity to lose a lot of weight. I lost like 50 to 70 pounds of a lot of muscle too. I was just so big from playing football, and didn't like it though, but it was cool. It was like cool to cut up like that and learn how to do that and manipulate my weight like that. um just wasn't really my thing. My training partner was really into like anabolics and stuff like that, and it didn't feel it just didn't feel right now. Even talking about it, it gives me like, it just makes me feel uneasy. um and I didn't like being immersed in that type of culture. I enjoyed the training. I enjoyed the just the cutting and all that, and the discipline that was that I was getting out of it. That was cool, but it just, again, it, like like in my heart right now, it just makes me uneasy like thinking about that. So it was a pretty easy like decision for me to be like, I'm gonna go a different route. And just remembered my cousin talking about CrossFit, gave that a shot. I didn't do as well as I thought I was gonna do, but I did really, really good in some things, enough to where it was like, holy shit, like I could have pretty much like won the first competition I ever did, but I didn't know how to do double unders or muscle ups. I'd never done that before. Um, and I was like, dang, if I could jump a rope and do a muscle up, like I would have just walked out of here with $5,000.
Yeah.
And the light bulb went off, and I was like, oh gosh, I could make money doing this. I could pay my rent. I could support myself. So I went all in, taught myself. I would watch YouTube videos and teach myself how to do the things that I couldn't do. Kelly Starrett was huge for me because I was a big, stiff football player. So like just mobilizing myself was like 95% of the work that I needed to do. Um, I went from like snatching like 135 to 315 in the matter of like weeks. Just like
Just by
I
getting
understand it happened quick.
that's awesome.
And but it was so funny. Like the first time snatching 135, I missed it. Like I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the mobility for it. Um, but yeah, so that's where I'm at. Starting gym, dabbling in CrossFit, figuring out that I think I like CrossFit and I can be good at it. And then moving into like running the gym, full time training, eventually getting to a point where I'm like, maybe I should just do training full time. Um, Found someone to manage the gym. I moved to Cincinnati with my wife to train full time, and that's kind of where CrossFit took off for me, and the rest is kind of history. But
Where are you training?
that what's that?
Where are you training in Cincinnati?
West Side Conjugate.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Laura Sweat, Shane Sweat, formerly Laura Sweat. I don't know. Well, formerly Laura Phelps. I don't know. I think she married again. But awesome place. I learned a lot. And really similar training styles to how I was brought up in high school and college. I was very familiar with the conjugate method, and so that in combination with CrossFit was kind of how we were training. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. But now the actual like testimony, I guess. This is a wild story. I'm running here in Quincy, Illinois, and I was fasting for no spiritual reasons. There's not like a really a spiritual bone in my body at this time. Um, I'm not like a bitter atheist or anything like that. I was I was curious about some things, but not in heavy pursuit of anything in the spiritual or religious domains. I had an outer body experience when I was younger, and other than that, like I wasn't super. So I was like into near death experiences and outer body experiences and stuff like that, and hearing people's stories there, but nothing really, no major pursuit. To even set the stage even more, my homie David in college asked me to go to church with him every Sunday for 5 years, and I said no every time. Unless there was food involved, then I would go with him. Like if they were serving hot dogs or something like that, I'd
Go get some
go
free
with
food. Yeah. Oh, that's
him. And so I'm out running, and it feels like I got pushed from behind. And that's the point, like as I'm falling, I'm looking back, like thinking someone's about to get it. um, and then I didn't see anyone. And my next thing was like, man, did I just like tear my Achilles or something? Like, anytime someone tears their Achilles, they always look back. I'm like having these thoughts as I'm falling to the ground. Um, Fall to the ground. I'm on all fours and I'm stuck in all fours. I'm on my knees and my hands, and I'm having this like very mild, what felt like a cramp. Um, it wasn't painful, but it felt like my body was kind of being held in position. And also it felt like someone was gripping my testicles. Not in a way that was painful, but just in a way I the best way I have to explain it was like someone grabbing you and being like, listen here, but not doing any harm, but just like, and you would like if someone did that to you, you'd be like, all right,
yeah.
I'm not gonna do anything, I'll listen. And I'm fully transparent, like not right now, but in the moment, I'm transparent. I could see through my body. I could see my bones. I could see my muscles. I could see my nervous system, my everything. I could see through my body. And I had this rainbow colored rod that was anchored in my crotch and coming out of my mouth, and there was like information being fed through it, in the form of audible instructions and visuals, like full on hallucination, like psychedelic visuals. And I'm sober as a bird. There's nothing, no funny business going on here. No cannabis, no alcohol, no psychedelics, like no food even. I wasn't even eating. I was fasting. Like, and so I'm having these visions, and these visions are in comparison to like real life. It would be like, if you remember the old projection big screen TVs that were really pixelated, in comparison to like a 1080p 4K brand new whatever TVs on the market today. It was like that in regards to what you see right now, and you looking around and us having this experience was like the equivalent of the projection TV. And the visual experience that I was having was like being in a 1080p 4K the most gangster TV you can buy on the market right now. It made real life seem like fake and very low quality compared to how rich this was, and how real it was. And I'm in this like infinite white bubble. It just went on forever, and there was no trees, there was no buildings, nothing up, nothing down, nothing to the left and to the right of me. And these visions are coming in while being like narrated by an audible voice.
Hmm.
And I'm communing with the voice as well. So the voice is like telling me essentially what I'm seeing, and then also like prescribing my duty, if you will, per each of these segments. There was 3 segments. One of them was to, and these are not in particular order. One of them was to get married. One of them was to walk into this building, and one of them was to get baptized by David. David was the guy that I told no about going to church for like 5 years, and I witnessed all of them. I saw I saw each of them happening. I saw the building. I saw myself walking into it. I saw me and my future wife standing, in exchanging vows, whatever. I saw David and myself and water with mountains in the background, and just exactly how they all happened. Um, exactly. Um, and talking back and forth during those things. And I'm like this 1-to-1 of like totally afraid for my life and totally comfortable and loved at the same time. Um, so per these requests, I was like very obedient to them, even though I had no clue what the hell just happened. My initial take on it was something alien for a really long time. Even after, like, even though I was being obedient through this process, I was still very skeptical of it, and I was very confused by it. I had no answers. That building ended up being a church. That's where I was going to get my answers, is what I learned. Um, and my formal education and understanding of what the hell just happened to me. I booked a ticket to go get baptized by David like the next day. Um, and then the wife thing, I was just like, okay, like cool. I was dating a girl at the time, and I thought it was going to be her. And in this like exchange, I was told no, it's not. And I was like, oh, bro, that's not good. Me and this chick, we had like I would say a good relationship. Um, Even to this day, like I adore her. She's such a sweet lady. Um, and I was like, damn, that's not good. Like she's not gonna be stoked about that, and neither am I. And so that was like the only one I was really resistant about, but still I was like, jeez, dude, that was the wildest thing that's ever happened to me in my
Yeah.
life. um I'm going to just follow through with it. And I was reluctant with the severing a relationship that was healthy and good and that I enjoyed. So I didn't really do that in a timely manner per the request. It was just hard for me. But I get another one of these experiences like a week later. And I'm at church, sitting on the floor in the very back, still very weirded out by just being in church. It felt weird. It just foreign. And I had a bunch of just preconceived kind of ideas and notions towards Christians in general. And just a bad kind of taste in my mouth, if you will. So I like wasn't really like excited about being there. But I was doing it anyway because I was told to. And I have another one of these experiences, and it's the best way I have to explain it would be like a UPS or Amazon package notification that you would receive on your phone or email or on your smartwatch or whatever. It was very short. This one was only like 10 to 20 seconds. The other one felt like it was maybe like, it felt a lot longer, but it was probably realistically like only 4 or 5 minutes. But really short in comparison to that one. It was less intense. The only difference was it just like felt like I got my lungs run, like it felt like I got the wind knocked out of me. Like felt like I got punched, really. So I always called it a Jesus punch. But it felt like I got punched. All the air was like sucked out of the room. And it was really intense, short bout notification that like my package is on its way.
Yeah.
Still, I'm not super like into it. I'm not like maybe there's a little hesitation with it because of the other girl that I wasn't like, is obedient towards pursuing it as I was the other two. I just didn't think really anything of it. I wasn't like walking around every corner like, oh, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Can't wait to meet her. Like I was like bumming about this. And one day, a semi-mutual friend of ours kind of connected us. Her kind of needs. She was coming home from Sweden in between soccer season. My wife played professional soccer for a long time. And she was looking for a place to train. I was training people. I opened that gym. I was working with a professional football player at the time too, and it just like people knew about that in town, and so we got connected. And I'm walking into the gym. I have an idea in my mind about who this person is, and I have an expectation of like what I think I'm about to like see, and which is like it was really kind of stereotypical and maybe even borderline rude to even share what I had in my mind of what I thought I was who I was about to train. But walking in, I'm scanning, I'm looking, and then there's this chick, and I see her from behind. And I'm like, oh, that's it. I was like, that's the person. There was even this like yellow tube around her of light. And it was really similar to the light that I saw that like illuminated the path to the building that I was told to go to. And I was like, yo, it's her. And I haven't even seen her yet. I have never even seen her face. And in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, holy crap, this is the woman that I'm supposed to marry. I don't know her. I've never met her. I've never held her hand. I've never kissed her. We've never been on a date. I kept it real. I kept it real for the whatever days that we trained together. I think it was like 5 days that we trained together. Totally professional, like not even like a flirty bone in my body, like full on, totally professional, still dating this other chick. But I, at the end of the 5 days, I told her everything. I told her what happened to me. I told her, exactly the same story I've told you.
Yeah.
I guess maybe in like a little greater detail, but and there was probably, there still is an excitement about that story, but that story was 11 years ago. It's a even though it was intense, it's just kind of like this distant memory. So just in the moment, I'm sure I was probably like way more fired up about it.
Sure.
And it kind of wigged her out, not a ton, not enough to like for her to be like, I'm out. But I told her everything straight up. I'm like, we're supposed to get married. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is just how it goes. And I asked her if Jesus was the number one most important thing in her life, and she said yes. And I'm like, then for sure we have a serious problem.
She was a
Like we're
when you met
yeah,
her. That's
she
cool.
was. She'd maybe strayed a little bit from her faith, but still, admittedly, she would say that yes, for sure, that is important to me. Um, and she had been praying for a Christian man, like over in Sweden where she was living. It was just like there was really no men of faith. I'm sure there are, but like she wasn't having, tons of. They weren't just like coming out of the woods or anything like that. So it's something she'd been praying for. So for her, it was very much a God thing too. So she felt a need to be obedient to this, even though it kind of wigged her out. And she moved back to Sweden. We stayed in touch over the phone. 6 months go by. She finishes her season up. She flies back home. 2 weeks later, we're engaged, we're married, we're moving to Ohio, starting CrossFit careers. She retired from soccer. Huge mistake. Not the marriage, the retiring from soccer and leaving Sweden so abruptly. Um, we could have, looking back, she was like 3 months away from having dual citizenship. She
Wow.
owned a house. She owned a house in Sweden. Um, you know, we could have planned that a little bit better, to where we had a currently have a house in Sweden, and our daughter has dual citizenship. I would probably have it by now too, um, and just be cool to have that. But we were just in love, and it went really fast, and we made some bonehead mistakes and whatever. But yeah, man, that's kind of my coming to Jesus story. Now it took me a good 3 years maybe to really come to really know who Jesus was and is, and what he's done. And I've even wrestled with this for a while. Like if I would have died during that time, and would I have been saved?
Hmm.
And I've come to the decision now, and I actually had a moment with the Holy Spirit a couple weeks ago where it was beautiful, and I have certainty around that I would have received God's grace, and I would have been saved, even though I didn't even really know who Jesus was, um, and was looking everywhere his but the Gospels to figure out what was really the nature of reality. I was feverishly studying any religious text you can think of, or like book on it. Like I exhausted a lot of time and energy into like every religion you could think of, but actual Christianity. But it took me a few years to really to sift through all that, and now I don't really like dabble in any of that stuff anymore. Not that I wasn't dabbling. I was just educating myself. I wanted answers. I
Yeah.
wanted answers. And so just studying everything, and now I'm to a place where I've been here for a while now, where like I pretty much just exclusively only, any of my like theological study is really only around the Gospels. I don't really, there's no new agey stuff. There's no, you know, freaking whatever it is. Just like there's no self-helpy books. There's no, just yeah. I don't really, yeah, dabble in any of that anymore. And again, maybe dabble's not a great word, because I wasn't like practicing like witchcraft or anything like that. I wasn't,
Well,
I
you were seeking
wasn't. What's that?
seeking knowledge on it.
Yeah.
So trying to find that wherever you could. Yeah.
I just wanted to know the truth.
Mhm.
And, in hindsight now, I'm like, oh gosh, I looked everywhere but
Right.
here. And gosh, and it makes so much sense now. I'm like, gosh, why didn't I just do that the first time around?
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I'm grateful for that experience and knowledge that I gained. I think it helps me to be more compassionate, and help me connect with people who may have like differing um, views or upbringings. Just because I was just studying that stuff so much, and I enjoyed the study too. It's not like when I would read stuff, I'd be like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool. Like, that's
Yeah.
neat. Next, move on. Keep reading. Keep learning. Um,
Yeah,
and
I think something, sorry to cut you off, but that's important is, I there was a time I like Stoic philosophy quite a bit, and it's very empty, I will say, if you don't have a spiritual lens to read it through. But I was talking to a friend and mentor of mine he's now in seminary, and I told him, like, yeah, I think I'm going to start studying Stoic philosophy a little bit, and he's like, okay, have you read the Bible cover to cover? And I mean, I was like, well, technically, no. Like, I've read the Bible for many years, but I've never read it cover to cover and like really honed in on studying it, other than just what I've studied in school and all that. Because I went to a Christian school, and he was like, "Well, who's the greatest philosopher of them all?" I was like, "Well, technically Jesus, right?" And he was like, "Well, until you've studied that cover to cover and in depth, what's the point in studying anything else?" And realistically, like, if he was the greatest philosopher of them all, why even study philosophy, right? And so I just thought that was kind of interesting thought on it, because that's when I started pouring more into just reading the scripture and trying to just not interpret it on my own, but just read through it and think about, okay, what does this mean to me? And then, listen to the sermons at church that preach from the scripture and things like that. So I think it just kind of goes to what you were saying about, like, you read all these other things and try to basically just get back to the point of, like, you should have just started here and ended here.
yeah, yeah, it is much more simplified, and yeah, it's to the point I was making about, for years I wrestled with it. I was like, grace is either something it's either really easy to receive it, or it's either really hard.
Yeah.
Uh, and for a long time, I thought it was really, really hard. But then again, I had a I had a really sweet moment with the Holy Spirit. I think it was last Tuesday. Um, Even though I'd already kind of knew this, but it was just like the Holy Spirit was like, Sam, I knew your heart then. Like, I knew it. And you might not have known everything, but like, I knew your heart and I knew it was for me. And we were good then. Like, you would have been fine. You would have been okay. You weren't going to burn in hell. Um, so it's yeah, man, it's such a trip, all that stuff, and it's just so elegant and so simple. I wish I would have had that, you know, just sooner. I wish I would have had it growing up. I wish I would have had it in my household, my family, and but then again, I have friends who say that maybe about my story. They're like, dude, I want a crazy psychedelic mystical experience, and I'm like, cool. I want to. I wish I would grew up in a house where, from the get go, and like I feel like I missed out on so much.
Everyone's
And
story, and I had many friends that grew up in the faith, and being in a Christian school pushed them away from it for a long time.
Yeah,
And some have not even come back. So, there's a reason it happened the way it happened, right?
yeah, I've definitely learned that God, just like us, if I only have one kid, but like a friend of mine told me this, and he's like, Sam, I have 5 children. I parent each of them completely different. Like the things that I do with kid one, I could never do that with kid four. It would like, maybe it would hurt their feelings or it would come off in the wrong way. So each of them, I deal with them each differently. And he's like, why wouldn't God be any different? Why, each of us, he knows us
Yeah.
like and has a personal understanding of what it is that what we need in regards to becoming sanctified or coming to know him or whatever it is. Like it's a it's all individuated um, to a degree. I mean, there's definitely some um, applications that can be assumed for everyone, just like the five kids. I'm sure there's like something that you could say to all of them at once that would work and would be conveyed and received properly. But yeah, it's definitely it's an individuated thing as well.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book Wild at Heart?
Does not ring a bell.
You know what? I'll send you a copy. This is the one book outside of the Bible that for me was just a huge transformation in viewing life. Um, and it's kind of about how men are wired spiritually, which it just helps you understand some of the maybe the driving factors or the confusion between flesh and spirit. So it's a really cool book. A guy named John Eldridge wrote it. I think he lives in Colorado or something now. I should reach out to him, see if we can have him on at some point. But yeah, it's a great book, and I would say that's the one book outside of the Bible that, like, when it comes to faith, every man should read. Yeah. So
I look forward to it.
yeah, yeah. Well, one more question I have for you here, and would love to do a part two with you at some point. I know you're about to be coming into a real busy season here, so it may have to be next year. But what legacy do you want to leave?
Mm. You had mentioned you had Mr. Vincent on, and he was like, "Man, I don't care about my freaking legacy," and I would have probably said something really similar to that if we recorded, say, 3 years ago. Um, but man, when you bring life into this world, just things change a little bit. My perspective on a lot of things have changed, and yeah, and having children, yeah, it'll simply put, it'll change you. And in regards to my legacy, man, I just like here's something that comes to mind often. Um, and I would probably still kind of side with Mr. Vincent. Like, there's part of me that could really care less about what anyone thinks of me or remembers about me, but when it comes to like my wife or my daughter or just my close friends and family and and what they remember and what memories they hold, that I guess being my legacy. It has more to do with them than anything, and just like and being a good father and being like a fair businessman and an honest businessman. um Being joyful is a big one. I I like I like making people feel good, whether it be through food. I love to cook for large groups. Um, I like I like to make people laugh and be funny. Um, and kind of I'll I tend to utilize humor to cope, whether that's a good or bad thing. Um, but I like making people feel good, and and it's really kind of been my life's work, even, and not just making people laugh and feel good, but I want I want people to know how good they're meant to really feel. Um, and I think it has a lot to do with where I've been in my life. I feel like I've been at some of the lowest of the lows, and really only shared a fraction of my life with you today. But just, yeah, I've had some gnarly things happen. I wish I actually had this letter. A friend of mine just wrote it to me. He got inducted into the Hall of Fame a couple weeks ago, and he wrote a letter to each of our, one of the friends in the group.
Yeah.
And my word was perspective. And even 15 years ago, still, even before I even knew the Lord, he just found it like really remarkable that I was always able to be in a good mood, and I was constantly like nothing, like never goes my way. Like it would, and then everything would fall apart, whether it was an injury or like a death or a separation or whatever. It just like woof, 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 and just getting beat down nonstop. And I've just learned to be able to like carry a tune through all that, and to be like, to just be joyful in the midst of really difficult, crappy situations. And like I hope that, as much as I want to help make people feel good and help people realize how good they're meant to feel, if there's like one thing I hope that there's a legacy that I leave, it's maybe like this, just proof that, like, joy can coexist with sadness, joy can coexist with pain, joy can coexist um during just difficult moments in your life. And shit, man, it's way more fun and it's way better when you're not freaking out all the time. Anytime I do freak out, I one of my favorite stories with this is just like, this is years ago, but I lost my wallet, and I thought someone stole my wallet, and I was so upset, and I literally ruined my day over this wallet, and I found it at the end of the day, after I just like wasted so much energy pulling other people down with my sadness and my grief over the loss of my wallet, and just, or whatever the grief is over the loss of whatever you freaking had. It's just like, you can be bummed about losing your wallet, but you don't have to be a freaking, a turd about it all day. And it's just a complete waste of energy. And I've learned that time and time and time again. Nothing is ever improved by freaking out about it. Nothing. Nothing. Literally nothing. Even when life is at hand, and like, you know life or death is at hand, there's nothing good comes from freaking out. Like, stay calm, like, have a have a you know a joyful attitude about whatever it is that you're doing, and it'll just like, it just, that isn't has been so enriching for me. um it's something I notice a lot in other people's lives, where um they just let life chew them up and spit them out. And I get chewed up for sure. Like, I've been chewed up quite a bit, but um man, I fight back. I fight back with positivity. I fight back with love. I fight back. And I just, yeah, I don't give up. I don't give up. I like one of my favorite quotes that I actually have on the back of this hat. It says, "Find out what happens when you don't give up." Like, I love that. it actually, I have a painting right there that says "Find out what happens when you don't give up." It's been a really fortifying message for me. It's gotten to a point where like I almost like I kind of relish in the crappiness. Like I kind of enjoy it now. Like I really like seeing what happens on the other side of it because I know it's good.
Yeah.
And it's just find out, man. Find out what happens when you don't give up. Find out what happens on the other side of that argument. Find out what happens on the other side of that injury. Find out what happens on the other side of whatever it is that you think sucks. Because it's going to be something beautiful and magnificent. Um, but yeah, you can't quit. You can't give up. Um, lots of little nuggets there in regards to like what my legacy is or what I want it to be. But man, I just hope that like the same way my homie from college was able to see that I was able to keep a good perspective about things in difficult moments, like that would be it. I hope that people see me behaving that way and they're able to steal that or borrow that for themselves. um just it's just a more peaceful, happier, joyful way of being, in my opinion. And I see people stressed out to the gills nonstop and anxiety nonstop, depressed nonstop. And dude, I have all the things that you are depressed about and you're anxious about and you're sad about. It's not like I haven't experienced affliction in my life, dude. I've had some shiznaz happen, dude, whether it be like in the department of losing people or injuries. I've broken my leg 4 times. I've cracked my collarbone in half. I've probably had over 100 concussions. I've broken my foot. I've broken my hand. I've torn both of my pecs. I've ripped my bicep off my arm. Like, just, I could go on forever about all the crappy things I've been through and the pain I've experienced. And there's like, people make it like a comparison thing. Like, you don't understand like the hurt that I've been through. And it's just like, I do actually, I do. And really, it doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I've learned also that like whatever crap you've been through, Will, like, let's say the worst thing that I've been through was like getting my ass kicked in high school and being called horrible names and being spit on and pissed on and yada yada yada. And the worst thing that ever happened to you was like your mommy told you no, that you couldn't have that thing. But that to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Like, it it's really no different than the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Our worst is our worst. And you see this in the gym too. Like with workouts. The performance that I have in the gym looks very rarely like anyone else's.
Mhm.
But does that mean that like their workout doesn't count or they're not going to get any benefit from their workout? Like, no, absolutely not the case. Just yeah, so like I'm not really going anywhere with that. It's just like what I'm saying is just your crap doesn't matter. Like, we all have it. It's part of life. It Don't let it chew you up and spit you out. Fight back a little bit. Um, and I understand that we might not all have everything in place together in the moment to be able to handle and cope with some of these things, but like, just keep showing up and work to cultivate that attitude of joy and gratitude and peace and harmony and unity and all these things. And like, before too long, it will just become embedded into you. it will just become a very natural state of your being. But it takes repetition and it takes practice, and you have to cultivate discipline around it. And I think I've just been able to maybe figure it out a little sooner than some people, because you know because I've had some trials, and I've had to um either you either learn from it, or the other options are rather bleak. And I've been there before. I've definitely had a few moments in my life where not existing seemed like a pretty good deal, comparatively to where I was, or where the potential of where I was going. Um, and even some recent bouts with, not super recent, but like maybe even like 4 or 5 years ago. You mentioned your testosterone getting really low. My test was super low. Like in 2017, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, like super depressed, overtrained, um, and like was, I remember telling my wife, I was like, yo, I totally get why people kill themselves. Like, I am in that spot right now where that seems like a much more pleasant
Hmm.
way to go than to continue like with this.
Yeah.
Um and um and it just, man, it takes, and that's where relationships are really important. You can't do it alone. um I guess ultimately, like, your relationship with God, something that you can carry with you and take with you everywhere. But even more so than that, just like personal relationships can be really helpful in those times and moments where you feel like life is just chewing you up and spitting you out. um but yeah, kind of going in circles with a lot of that stuff. But um man, I that's my legacy. I want people to know that there can be joy and happiness amongst all the other things as well. And I want people to know that um, there's awesome stuff on the other side of the stuff that isn't awesome. Whether it be pain or heartache or loss or whatever, like, just stick with it, because on the other side of it, it's like there's going to be something better there, a better person, a more resilient individual, um, just a more knowledgeable, more compassionate
Yep.
person. So yeah.
Yep. That's awesome. That's a good word, man. Well, Sam, where can people find out more about you, find you, follow you?
Yeah. I don't do a ton of social media stuff. um I limit myself to 30 minutes a day on it, and I rarely even hit my time limit on it.
That's good.
Kind of an in the moment guy. I still share a little bit on there, but at Sam Dancing is where you can find me on online. Jenny, my wife, if you ever want like a little bit more into the our lives and to get a closer look, you could go to her channel, Jen Dancing.
Okay.
She posts a lot more just about us than I do. And if you ever want to learn more about the non-for-profit side of things, Dancer Love Foundation, you can Google that sucker. Um, yeah, man. Um, you can shoot me a message online if you ever need someone to chat with. Sometimes it takes a good like 24 to 48 hours to get a response, but I try to do my best to respond to incoming messages. And but yeah, I'm stoked I got the chance to be on your show, Will, and
Coming on.
share my testimony um and story. And I if it reaches one person, I would say it was worth our time today. So
No doubt. Well, guys, go follow Sam. Go follow his wife, Jenny. We'll be rooting for you this year at the CrossFit Games as well, hopefully. And thanks again for coming on.
yeah, well, thank you, dude.